Welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I'm Patrick Harney. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that notification button so you can be alerted when a new episode comes out. I know I've been a little inconsistent lately with episodes, but hey, there's a lot going on. And plus, wrapping up the summer, and I'm trying to figure out maybe to do some things a little differently. I don't know. But episodes will be coming back in terms of new guests, maybe some old guests that will be coming back, and and some exciting new topics, and so one thing that I wanted to make sure that I talked about is that I'm thinking of maybe changing the format. I don't know, in the sense of I still want to do an episode a week. However, I was thinking of maybe doing like 1 or 2 guest episodes a month. So the rest of the month would just be solo episodes talking about, we could be talking about anything from self-improvement. Not that I'm some expert or anything, but sharing good stories, trying to get back to that, because I feel like I was doing that before and kind of fell off a little bit, but it's good to share some positive stories and happy stories and things that are going on in life that, that we need to hear about. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. But I will say that I do have some very, I have some very cool episodes coming up here pretty soon. For one, I have a gentleman. I was actually just on his podcast. He's the host of the True You podcast with Java. Super cool guy, really nice, and I loved being on his show. He has a really cool show. You should really check it out. And then I also have a author coming on who just had a new book come out, and she was very kind enough to send me a copy. And it's Bernie Mac's Daily Motivational. It's called I Don't Care If You Like Me, I Like Me. This is the book. She helped write it. Her name is Melinda Bryce, and she's a very talented screenplay writer, but also a very talented author. And so I'll be having her on as well. So yeah, there's some cool stuff coming. And then I'm also thinking about bringing the Amigos back on. I'm going to be reaching out to them and seeing if we can coordinate something, because that episode was a ton of fun. So there's some things going on, and I'm always trying to improve the podcast. I'm always trying to make it better. And it's interesting because I've been listening to this, it's called Grow the Show podcast. And one of the things that they talk about is really like narrowing down and becoming very specific. And so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Because obviously, I want to grow the show as best I can and continue to grow it. I'm lucky enough to have the listeners that I do. And I've got listeners, thankfully, I've got listeners all around the world. But I want to grow that audience some more, So I'm just doing some research and trying to narrow down more so what I want to talk about, because sometimes I kind of get off the rails, like I kind of do the whole Joe Rogan thing where I talk about anything, and but I do love doing the interviews. I love doing that, and I love having different types of people on. That is fun, and I'll never get rid of that. But that's why I was thinking maybe 3 episodes of the month could be specific about one thing, and then the 4th episode can be an interview, and it could be with anybody. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. You tell me. What do you like to hear? Or what are some things that that you would love to hear talked about that just don't get talked about, you know? And if it's anything that I have any sliver of information on or knowledge on, then, you know, maybe I'll talk about it. Because why not, you know? I'm here for you. I'm kidding. Well, I mean, I am here for you, but I'll really, though, I do this because I just enjoy doing it, you know, and if you want to listen, I love it. Great. Thank you. That's very kind. If you don't want to listen, I understand. My voice can get annoying sometimes. So, yeah, it's kind of where that's at. So one thing that I've been kind of talking or thinking about lately and you know, and I've been having conversations with Taylor about it, you know, is sometimes, you know, it's easy to feel lost when you're in the mode of trying to build a career, right? And it's amazing how things happen because, you know, especially in this industry that I'm in. Sorry, my microphone is just pissing me off. It's in the industry that I'm in, you know, as an actor and as a producer, you're constantly having to wait around for other people, right? You're constantly having to, like, you can work and work and work, but to get things done, especially to get a project made or anything like that, there's so many variables that go into it. So anything that's worthwhile, any career that's worthwhile, it's going to be difficult, you know? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I know that's such a cliche, but it's true. And I've been really having to try to remind myself of that lately because, you know, not everything's going to happen overnight. And everything happens in the time that it should. And if you try to force things, it's just not going to work. And if you don't have a good feeling about something, you know, that whole trust your gut instinct thing, like there's something to it, you know? And it's important to do that. It's important to trust your gut because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And so, but one of those things, you know, that are one of the things that her and I were talking about recently is that, like, you know, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's important to be patient. And trust me, I've learned a lot of patience over the last 7 years, maybe. I've learned a lot of patience because, you know, it's difficult. It's difficult to send in an audition and then you don't hear anything. It's difficult to submit for a project. You don't hear anything. It's difficult to work on a project and you think it's going to go great and you think it's going to be perfect and like this will, well, not perfect, but you think it'll be something that'll really help be a big step in your career moving forward. And then it falls apart or it doesn't come out or whatever the case may be, because there's so many variables involved with all this stuff, you know? But it's important to keep your eye on the prize. And it's important to stay centered and to keep yourself in check. Because I'm one of those people that I carry all my stress, like I carry it in my shoulders and my neck, you know? But I hold a lot of my stress in. One of the things that I try to stay focused on is all the little victories, you know what I mean? All the little things that I've been able to accomplish in this however long that I've been trying to do this, you know, and that I've been doing this work, this career. And it's funny because I think actors, I mean, it's very true in the sense that actors receive more rejection in a year than a lot of people do in their lifetime. And when you have that much rejection, you have to develop a thick skin. You have to be able to take the hits and keep moving forward. I feel like that was pretty good. But again, what I hear in my head is different than what comes out. So I don't know if that was good, but I feel like it was pretty good. But it's important to continue to move forward and to not give up on what you're doing. Now, they always say that, people who always quit were just that close to making it. I don't know how they can gauge that because they didn't keep going, but maybe there is something to that, But I think it's important to always continue to strive for being as great as you can be. The most important thing that I would say that I've learned in the last couple of days, and especially after talking with Taylor and continuing to have the conversation of growing, and is that obviously there's hills and valleys in any sort of career or any sort of pursuit in doing whatever you're doing. Just don't hang out in the valleys too long. That's the biggest thing. Don't settle in the valleys. Keep trying to climb that next hill because you don't know what's on the other side. You don't know what's on the other side. Everything that you could have wanted could be on the other side. But if you stop because what you see is too daunting for you, and you decide to settle, look at what you could be missing out on. Right? It's like that story of being the buffalo. I told it on Java's podcast, and I know I've said it on here before, but when a storm rolls through, sheep, cattle, they see the storm, they turn, and they hightail it out. They try to run away from it. But the storm's coming toward them. They can't run away from the storm because it catches up to them. But yet the buffalo sees that storm, puts its head down, and runs forward. And pushes forward to run through the storm, to get to the other side, because they know that there is another side. Well, it's a perfect metaphor for life. When problems are rolling in, don't turn and try to run from them, because they'll always catch up to you. Run through it. And I guarantee you'll make it on the other side. You might have some bruises, you might have some bumps, broken bone or two, your dignity might be hurt, but you'll get there. You'll get to the other side, and you'll be stronger for it. And that's important to keep in mind. I've been trying to remind myself of that over and over, Especially when there's things that seem so promising, and then it doesn't work out. Or when you think you're that close, and then it doesn't work out. But that's okay, because everything is a teaching moment. Everything's a lesson to be learned. It's important to keep in mind. I started doing yoga. Well, Taylor got me started doing yoga because I'm very tight. I am not flexible at all. I can't touch my toes. My flexibility is so poor. So bad. Like, dude, I can't even sit on the ground with my back straight up and my legs laying flat on the ground. I can't do a 90-degree angle. That's how tight I am. And so we're trying to do yoga once a week, right? Just started it. And I like it. It's very calming. It's very relaxing. The kind of yoga where you feel like all your muscles are going to just like snap off of the bone and the ligaments are going to just, snap in half. That's not fun. But the ones like the breathing techniques that you can gain from it, and the learning to center yourself and ground yourself, and the relaxation that comes with that is really, really nice. And I want to keep doing it. And hopefully one day I'll be able to touch my toes. I mean, it's not really a big deal. I don't really care if I don't touch my toes or not. But it is nice. I do enjoy it. It's something that I always thought was really stupid. I was like, oh, yoga, that's just for the hippies, right? But I don't know, man. I think there's something to it. I think it's pretty cool. And I understand why people do it. I understand why she likes to do it. You know, it helps kind of level her out a little bit. And I'm hoping it'll do the same to me. Also, this is totally unrelated to any of that stuff, but this year, so I don't know if you remember at all, but last year I it was my first time back doing live theater, and I was doing it with the Peppermint Creek Theater Company. And we did All Is Calm, the Christmas Truce of 1914. It's a beautiful story. It's about the Christmas truce in World War I between the Allied forces, right? I think it was the Allied forces. That's what they were considered. It was between the Germans and the British Army. Well, not just the British. I mean, the Irish were there, and the Scots, I think, were there as well, and the French. But anyway, and they played soccer together, and they celebrated Christmas together, and it was a beautiful story, right? Well, we are bringing back that show because a lot of people had asked for us to do it again this year, to revive it this next year, whatever. And we're thinking about maybe turning it into an every year thing. We're only going to do a couple shows. We're not going to do the full run that we had done last year. We're only going to do a couple shows, but we're trying to do it at a little bit bigger venues and different venues. And man, I can't wait. It'll be wonderful. That was such a fun show. That was probably the most fulfilling show that I have ever been a part of. Because it's just such a beautiful story, and it's such a beautiful story about humanity and the good in people, you know, that in the middle of a war, they put down their differences and celebrated such a beautiful holiday like Christmas together. You know, yeah, it's a beautiful story. So be on the lookout for more information about that. The shows will be in Michigan. I will be traveling back to Michigan for that. I think we're going to be doing in early December is the shows that I think like the week of the 5th or something is when we're going to do those shows. So I'm super stoked about that. I'm super, super excited about it. And who knows, you know, maybe we can make this a full tradition, you know. I don't know why I said full, but a yearly tradition where, you know, even if it's for one night, we bring the show back and sell it out, you know, and because it's also history, you know. It's important that history be kept intact, you know, because history is the best teacher. Yet here we are. We still seem to ignore history, and we repeat it over and over and over and over. But, you know, and everybody always talks about World War II and World War II, and yes, that was considered the Great War. And if you ask me, man, that war, I'm always fascinated by just that era, and the men that fought in that war were just like men, and they were like 19 years old. But World War I was incredibly important as well, and people forget about that because of World War II, I think. And so, yeah, it's just great to be able to be a part of a show like that. That is just so beautiful, and the music is beautiful, and you really get a sense of brotherhood, a little, you know, from that show, what that was like, because all the dialogue in that show is from letters or interviews from the soldiers that fought in that war and that experienced that Christmas truce. All the dialogue, with the exception of the end. So, yeah, it's a beautiful story, and I can't wait to get back to it. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I don't really have anything else other than the fact that please make sure to go on and subscribe. Make sure to share these podcasts. Check them out. You can either listen to them obviously on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHEART Radio, all those fun little places. Plus, you can watch the episode on YouTube. So again, thank you always for listening. Thank you always for watching. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you.